In London this morning, Prince Harry is testifying in the latest lawsuit against a British tabloid, the court case against the owners of the Daily Mail.
When Prince Harry's legal team delivered a staggering $59 million invoice to Buckingham Palace, the royal world held its breath. In an unprecedented move, King Charles III rejected the demand outright, leaving Harry to confront a financial storm all on his own. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle quietly insulated her assets, ensuring she would not be swept into the fallout. From courtroom defeats to shattered alliances, this is a story of ambition, strategy, and the harsh reality of a prince forced to shoulder the consequences of his own choices. This is the story, the royal rupture. Prince Harry shocked the royal family and the wider public when he made a move that few could have predicted. He attempted to transfer an eye-watering $59 million in legal costs directly onto Buckingham Palace. What started as a series of legal battles with the British press, aimed at defending his privacy and holding media outlets accountable.
Let's pick up on that because Prince Harry has indeed arrived at the High Court in London at his case against the publisher of the Daily Mail.
Quickly spiraled into a financial gamble of historic proportions. Harry's legal team argued passionately, insisting that the monarchy should step in to cover the enormous costs of his ongoing litigation. They claimed that, as a member of the royal family who had taken on the burden of defending the institution's reputation, Harry was entitled to support from the crown. But the response from King Charles was immediate, firm, and utterly uncompromising. Within hours, the palace made it crystal clear the request was rejected in its entirety. No negotiations, no compromises, no gray areas. The message was blunt and unavoidable. Harry would have to bear the entire financial weight himself. The royal household emphasized that, as a non-working member of the family living outside the United Kingdom, Harry's personal legal battles were his responsibility alone. The monarchy would not act as a bank or a safety net for debts that had been accrued by choices made independently, and in many cases, recklessly. This decision marked a moment of extraordinary significance in the long, complex relationship between Harry and the Crown. It was not merely a financial refusal, it was a statement of principle, a line drawn in the sand. By denying the demand, King Charles signaled that the era of automatic royal backing for personal ventures was over. The Duke of Sussex, once celebrated as a global favorite of the family, suddenly found himself fully exposed to the harsh realities of legal, financial, and public pressures. Observers noted the symbolism in the timing and delivery of the palace's rejection. The king, maintaining his carefully measured distance, avoided any public fanfare while sending a clear message. The monarchy was no longer a source of financial rescue for Harry. Advisors stressed that the move was about protecting the institution as much as enforcing accountability. It was a message that personal ambition and private legal battles cannot and will not be subsidized by the Crown or the British public. For Harry, the consequences were immediate and far-reaching. With millions owed in court fees and potential settlements, the Duke now faced the full force of his decisions alone. The rejection did more than safeguard the royal coffers. It reshaped the dynamics of one of the most high-profile relationships in modern monarchy. It forced a reckoning, a stark reminder that titles, privilege, and lineage do not automatically protect against the realities of debt, accountability, and the law. The refusal stands as one of the most definitive breaks between Prince Harry and the Crown. It highlighted a turning point where personal responsibility, public scrutiny, and financial reality collided, leaving the Duke to confront the consequences of his legal battles entirely on his own. King Charles, in an unapologetic move, refused to shoulder the financial burden of Harry's legal battles. But what options remain for Harry? Will he try to persuade other members of the royal family to intervene with the king, or will he face the full consequences of the refusal? Let's find out, alone in the crossfire. Without the safety net of royal support, Prince Harry now finds himself standing alone beneath the full weight of an unprecedented financial storm. What began as a determined and personal effort to hold some of Britain's most powerful tabloids accountable has spiraled into a high-stakes gamble, one that now threatens to consume every resource at his disposal. Legal fees, potential court settlements, and the escalating costs of drawn-out proceedings have combined into a mountain of responsibility that Harry must now confront entirely on his own. There are no royal advisors, no hidden lines of credit from the sovereign grant, no cushion to soften the blow. The palace's refusal was not merely a financial decision. It was a statement, a firm delineation between the institution and a son who has chosen a path outside of it. Those close to the monarchy describe the decision as both necessary and principled. While the sums involved are staggering, insiders emphasize that the rejection of Harry's demand was about more than numbers. It is a clear message: lawsuits initiated by a non-working royal, no matter how personal or justified they may seem, are the sole responsibility of the individual who files them. The palace is not, and will not be, a safety net for personal vendettas or legal crusades. In essence, the Crown has drawn a line in the sand, signaling that while family ties remain, financial indulgence and institutional backing for private disputes are firmly off the table. The stakes for Harry have never been higher. Each court appearance, each legal brief, and each piece of evidence now carries both financial and reputational consequences. The very campaign he hoped would defend his privacy and vindicate his grievances against the press has transformed into a minefield of escalating expenses and increasing public scrutiny. Every misstep, every procedural delay, and every surprise revelation now hits harder because there is no buffer. For the first time, Harry faces the brutal reality that the cost of his ambitions may not just be monetary. It could affect his credibility, his standing, and his long-term legacy. Observers note that the shift from palace-backed protection to total personal accountability is a turning point in the Duke of Sussex's life. Whereas once he could rely on the resources, advice, and authority of the Crown to guide and shield him, he is now fully exposed. The message from Buckingham Palace is unambiguous. The legal battles you choose to fight are yours to bear, and the consequences are yours to face. For Harry, the path ahead is no longer cushioned by titles or wealth provided by the institution he was born into. The Duke stands alone, navigating a complex legal battlefield, where each decision carries monumental financial and personal risk. What started as a pursuit of justice has become a test of endurance, judgment, and self-reliance, one that will define not only his future, but also the stark reality of life beyond the royal safety net. Harry has been denied a bailout from the crushing financial burden of his legal battles by the palace. But will his wife come to his aid in this trying time? And does she have what it takes to rescue her husband? Now let's delve into Meghan's calculated move, Meghan's strategic shield. As Prince Harry found himself caught in a whirlwind of mounting legal bills, collapsing lawsuits, and public scrutiny, whispers began circulating that Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, was quietly taking steps to protect her personal fortune. While Harry's world seemed to teeter on the edge of financial disaster, Meghan was reportedly working behind the scenes with a team of trusted advisors to reassess and reorganize her assets. The goal was clear: safeguard her wealth from the growing chaos surrounding her husband's ambitious, yet increasingly risky, legal campaigns. Sources close to the couple suggest that Meghan's strategy involved more than mere caution. Certain holdings connected to their sprawling California ventures were allegedly separated or restructured, effectively creating a protective barrier between her personal finances and the potential fallout from Harry's legal battles in both the United Kingdom and the United States. This was not simply about numbers or spreadsheets. It was a deliberate and calculated move to ensure that, should the Duke of Sussex's costly litigation fail, as many legal experts had already begun predicting, she would not be financially compromised. Observers point out that this approach signals a growing divergence in the couple's financial priorities. While Harry poured time, energy, and millions of dollars into high-profile lawsuits aimed at holding British tabloids accountable, Meghan appeared to be taking a more pragmatic stance, focused on long-term stability rather than short-term vindication. Industry insiders in Hollywood and Silicon Valley reportedly saw this as a savvy maneuver, designed to preserve her business ventures, streaming deals, and lifestyle brand from the unpredictable consequences of her husband's legal risks. The implications of these moves extend beyond mere dollars and cents. They suggest a widening financial and strategic gap between the Sussexes, a subtle but unmistakable sign that Meghan was preparing to protect herself if Harry's legal gambles went awry. In many ways, it reflects a shift in her focus from a united front against perceived injustices to an individual strategy aimed at preserving her influence, autonomy, and security in a world that is often unforgiving to miscalculated risks. Legal experts and royal commentators have noted that while it is common for high-net-worth individuals to restructure assets in times of uncertainty, the timing and context of Meghan's actions drew particular attention. Against the backdrop of Harry's crumbling lawsuits, soaring legal fees, and growing public scrutiny, her moves were seen as both defensive and strategic, a clear signal that she was determined not to allow her personal fortunes to be entangled in the fallout. In short, as the Duke of Sussex struggled to navigate the financial and emotional turbulence of his court battles, Meghan Markle appeared to be quietly plotting a course that would protect her wealth, her business ventures, and her global reputation. The picture that emerges is one of two individuals moving in different directions. Harry, consumed by a legal crusade with escalating costs and shrinking support, and Meghan, methodically insulating herself from the storm, ensuring that her financial future remains intact no matter the outcome. Meghan Markle is determined to stay clear of Harry's financial crisis, fearing it could affect her negatively. But was this decision entirely deliberate, or was she forced by circumstance? And what exactly is she trying to protect? Now, let's unravel why the Duchess is guarding her fortune, Meghan's mindset on money. In a revealing moment that offered a rare glimpse into her personal mindset, Meghan Markle recently opened up during a podcast about her complicated relationship with money. Speaking candidly to host Sarah Blakely, she described a constant tension that many experience but few discuss: the delicate balance between abundance and scarcity. Despite her significant wealth and high-profile ventures, Meghan admitted that she often feels a gnawing sense of guilt simply for having a lot. A sentiment she acknowledged is common, especially among women who are conditioned from a young age not to speak openly about finances. The Duchess went further, exploring the emotional layers that accompany financial security. She explained how, even when one possesses considerable resources, it is easy to fall into the mindset that one will never have enough. This duality of abundance and scarcity, she said, can shape both decisions and behaviors, influencing the choices people make to protect what they have or to ensure stability for the future. For Meghan, these reflections are more than philosophical. They are deeply practical. Observers of the royal family have noted that Meghan's actions in recent months align closely with her own insights. As Prince Harry faces a spiraling $59 million legal battle with British tabloids, the Duchess is reported to be taking careful steps to shield her personal and professional assets from the fallout. Advisors are said to have recommended restructuring or separating certain holdings in their California-based ventures, ensuring that her wealth remains insulated from her husband's mounting liabilities. Whether it involves business partnerships, lifestyle investments, or media projects, the goal appears clear: maintain control, minimize risk, and safeguard long-term security. What makes these moves especially intriguing is how they reflect Meghan's mindset in action. Her financial decisions are not purely about business strategy. They are intertwined with personal considerations, a desire to avoid unnecessary exposure, and a recognition of the unpredictable consequences of Harry's legal crusades. By stepping strategically to protect her fortune, Meghan is signaling a subtle but meaningful shift in priorities. Her wealth, reputation, and peace of mind are being managed independently, even while her husband wrestles with an escalating legal and financial storm. Ultimately, Meghan's reflections and corresponding actions illuminate a key dynamic within the Sussex household. Her candid acknowledgement of guilt and scarcity mindset provides context for the careful steps she is taking to insulate herself from risk, highlighting both her foresight and her independence. In the shadow of Harry's financial battles, Meghan's strategic decisions are a blend of prudence, self-preservation, and personal empowerment, demonstrating how personal philosophy can directly inform financial strategy, even in the high-stakes world of royal scrutiny. This insight not only sheds light on the Duchess herself, but also underscores a broader narrative. While Harry faces the full brunt of a legal and financial crisis, Meghan is navigating her own path, using her awareness and planning to maintain stability and control amid the chaos surrounding the couple. Meghan fears she doesn't have enough resources to assist her husband, and trying to do so could cost her dearly. But how did Harry get into this financial mess, leaving even his closest family members at a distance? Now let's uncover how Harry's tabloid battles spiraled into a high-stakes legal and personal crisis. From justice to financial gamble, Prince Harry's legal battles with the British tabloids have grown into one of the most dramatic and costly chapters in recent royal history. What began as a determined attempt to confront media outlets for what he described as unlawful intrusion into his private life quickly escalated into a far more complex and punishing ordeal than anyone had anticipated. At the heart of the conflict were allegations that several newspapers had obtained personal information without consent, stories that he claimed misrepresented his life, tarnished his reputation, and put him and his family under unfair scrutiny. Harry framed these lawsuits as a principled fight for justice, a way to stand up for privacy, protect the monarchy's reputation, and hold powerful media organizations accountable. Yet, what initially appeared to be a clear-cut quest for fairness soon spiraled into a labyrinth of legal entanglements, astronomical fees, and relentless court appearances. Each filing, counterargument, and courtroom session added layers of complication and expense. The Duke of Sussex, once confident in his ability to navigate this media maze, found himself confronted by the harsh realities of high-stakes litigation. Legal experts quickly warned that the longer the cases dragged on, the greater the financial and emotional toll. Every motion and response required teams of lawyers, investigators, and support staff, costs that multiplied by the day, creating a financial storm of unprecedented scale for a former working royal. As the lawsuits progressed, what had started as a personal campaign evolved into a high-risk gamble, with stakes that extended far beyond courtroom victories or losses. Every piece of evidence, every witness testimony, and every technical challenge became a potential tipping point. Missteps were costly, and even minor errors could jeopardize not just the outcome of the cases, but Harry's credibility, public image, and personal finances. The pressure mounted, with observers noting that the Duke appeared increasingly frustrated, exhausted, and isolated as the courts demanded rigorous scrutiny of both his claims and the evidence he presented. The situation was compounded by the inherent unpredictability of media law. Winning a case against established tabloids is notoriously difficult. Judges carefully weigh freedom of the press against individual privacy claims, often in ways that defy public expectation. For Harry, this meant that victories were never guaranteed, and the financial stakes were enormous. As the bills mounted, the lawsuits became more than a pursuit of justice. They became a test of endurance, strategy, and resolve. The Duke of Sussex, accustomed to operating on confidence and public support, now faced the sobering reality that legal ambition without guaranteed success carries monumental risks. Ultimately, what was intended as a noble fight for privacy and integrity transformed into a complex, high-cost battlefield. Every legal maneuver, Every unexpected twist and every mounting expense intensified the pressure on Harry, turning a personal grievance into a profound financial and reputational gamble. In the end, the courts would not only determine the outcome of the lawsuits, but also decide who would bear the enormous burden, and whether the Duke of Sussex would emerge victorious or face the full weight of the consequences alone. Harry's legal battle against British tabloids, where he accused several newspapers of unlawful information gathering, has already cost him a fortune. But does he have enough evidence to win the case? Could he recover enough through damages to ease his mounting financial burden? Let's find out. A case that became increasingly uncertain. What began as a bold and determined legal campaign for Prince Harry quickly started to shift into unfamiliar territory, one marked by uncertainty, scrutiny, and escalating risk. At the outset, Harry's lawsuits against the British tabloids had been framed as a righteous crusade, a mission to hold the press accountable for what he described as years of harassment, intrusion, and misinformation. Confident statements and public bravado suggested that victory was inevitable. Yet, as the courtroom battles unfolded, the narrative changed. Testimonies that once seemed certain began to wobble under intense questioning, while key pieces of evidence were dissected, challenged, and in some instances, exposed as unreliable. Each session in the Royal Courts of Justice brought with it a new set of obstacles. Witnesses who had been relied upon to corroborate Harry's claims were scrutinized down to the smallest detail. Every line of testimony, every document presented, came under the piercing eye of judges and attorneys alike. What had started as a seemingly straightforward case against the tabloids evolved into a labyrinth of legal complications. Financial pressure mounted alongside the growing legal complexity. Millions of pounds were already being poured into lawyers' fees, investigations, and court filings, yet the results remained anything but certain. With each hearing, the potential cost to Harry, not just financially, but in reputation and credibility, grew larger. Observers noted that prolonged litigation in high-profile cases often carries a heavy price, and this situation was no exception. Every delay, every objection, every counter-argument from the defense team intensified the stakes, creating a relentless pressure cooker for the Duke of Sussex. As the case grew more precarious, the palace's stance became increasingly clear. The once hypothetical question of royal financial support had transformed into a concrete boundary. The $59 million invoice Harry had presented was no longer just an ambitious request. It had become a symbol of the gamble he was taking, and the risks were now visible to all. With the legal foundation of his claims beginning to crumble, the monarchy recognized the danger of stepping in to subsidize a venture teetering on the edge of collapse. The message was unambiguous. Harry had crossed a line, and the consequences were his alone to bear. By this stage, the courtroom drama had taken on a new life. What was intended as a fight for justice and privacy had evolved into a tense and unpredictable battle that tested not only Harry's legal team, but also his judgment and resilience. Every misstep, every fragile piece of evidence, and every wavering witness compounded the pressure. Observers watching the proceedings closely could see why the palace remained steadfast. The $59 million was not just money. It represented a principle, the refusal of the Crown to fund personal ambitions built on precarious claims and uncertain outcomes. In essence, the unraveling of Harry's legal strategy showcased the stark reality of high-stakes litigation. Confidence alone cannot guarantee success. The Duke's personal crusade had transformed into a high-pressure, high-risk ordeal, where uncertainty reigned supreme, financial exposure loomed large, and the line between determination and desperation became unmistakably clear. The outcome of Harry's legal battle with the British tabloids remains uncertain, leaving his hopes of escaping the financial burden hanging in the balance. But what happened in his past cases? Could history repeat itself? And is that why some of Harry's closest relatives are keeping their distance? Let's uncover the full story. A history of costly legal battles. Prince Harry's latest legal and financial turmoil is far from his first brush with high-stakes courtroom drama. The Duke of Sussex has, over the years, repeatedly tested the limits of the British legal system, and each confrontation has carried both financial and reputational consequences, not just for him, but indirectly for the monarchy itself. One of the most notable examples came in 2022, when Harry pursued multiple lawsuits related to police protection. Having stepped back from active royal duties, he found himself in conflict with the British Home Office over the decision to strip him of his official security detail. Determined to challenge the ruling, Harry launched a series of legal proceedings aimed at reversing the decision, hoping that the courts might side with him and restore the protection he believed was rightfully his. What many outside the palace may not have realized at the time is just how deeply these lawsuits affected the royal household. Though Harry himself was leading the legal fight, the royal family, by virtue of his title and previous role, was indirectly drawn into the process. Public attention, internal oversight, and, in some instances, resources connected to the crown became entangled in the proceedings. The outcome, however, was far from favorable. Each case concluded in failure, leaving the Duke to face not only the humiliation of defeat, but also a growing financial exposure that had ripple effects on the palace. These earlier missteps serve as a crucial backdrop for understanding King Charles III's decisive stance in the current money dispute. The Crown's refusal to cover the staggering legal costs is not merely a question of money. It is rooted in experience, precedent, and principle. Having witnessed firsthand the unintended consequences of Harry's previous legal adventures, the king is determined not to repeat the same mistakes. The palace has learned that supporting high-cost, high-risk litigation on behalf of a non-working royal can quickly spiral into an unsustainable financial burden, and King Charles is signaling that the monarchy will no longer serve as a safety net for ventures that carry uncertain outcomes and potentially devastating costs. Rejecting Harry's demand is, therefore, both a protective and principled move. The Crown is safeguarding its financial stability while also reinforcing a critical boundary. Personal legal battles, no matter how well-intentioned or justified they may seem, are the sole responsibility of the individual undertaking them. By refusing to fund what some insiders are calling a suicide mission, the palace is making a clear statement that the era of unlimited royal support for personal litigation is over. In essence, the history of Harry's previous legal confrontations underscores the wisdom of the palace's current decision. The failed lawsuits of 2022 were a cautionary tale, one that reminds both the Duke of Sussex and the public that even royals are not immune to the financial and reputational hazards of ambitious legal campaigns. King Charles' rejection of the $59 million request is not just about numbers. It is about avoiding the repetition of a costly pattern, preserving the integrity of the monarchy, and making certain that personal ambitions do not become a liability for the crown. The message is unmistakable. Lessons from the past have shaped this decisive moment, and the palace will not gamble again. Harry lost costly legal battles in 2022, leaving the palace to cover the expenses. Could that be why King Charles is staying clear of the financial implications of his current fight? And what does the king's refusal really signal? Let's find out. A clear message from the palace. In a move that stunned many observers, King Charles III made it unmistakably clear that the monarchy would no longer act as a financial safety net for Prince Harry's personal legal battles. By refusing to cover the Duke of Sussex's staggering $59 million legal costs, the king sent a crystal-clear message not only to his son, but to the public. Private disputes, no matter how high-profile or justified they may seem, are the responsibility of the individual pursuing them. This is a boundary rooted in principle, precedent, and practicality, a firm declaration that the monarchy will not be drawn into costly personal litigation that falls outside the duties and obligations of working royals. Palace insiders emphasize that Harry himself created the circumstances that necessitated this hard stance. When he and Meghan Markle relocated to the United States and stepped away from official royal responsibilities, they also voluntarily forfeited the financial support, resources, and protections that come with active service. This included access to the sovereign grant, support from the royal household, and the broader financial backing that cushions members of the royal family from risk. With that step, Harry effectively placed himself outside the protective umbrella of the crown, making his legal adventures entirely his own responsibility. The refusal to pay is as much about principle as it is about money. By drawing a sharp line, King Charles is underscoring a fundamental truth. The monarchy cannot and will not subsidize personal endeavors, even when they carry extraordinary public attention or potential reputational impact. Neither taxpayer funds nor the private estates of the duchies, resources meant to support official duties, charitable work, and long-term stability of the crown, will be redirected to cover litigation that stems from personal grievances, disputes with the media, or ambitious campaigns to defend one's own reputation. The message is both moral and financial. The age of automatic royal bailouts for private legal gambles has ended. This decision also reflects a careful awareness of precedent and public perception. Royals have historically been shielded from certain financial risks, but the modern era demands accountability, transparency, and careful stewardship of both public and private funds. The palace is acutely aware that acquiescing to Harry's demands could create dangerous expectations, inviting further claims from individuals outside the immediate sphere of official duties. By saying no, the crown is protecting itself, the monarchy's credibility, and the integrity of the public's trust. For Harry, the implications are profound. The full weight of legal fees, potential settlements, and court costs now rests squarely on his shoulders. There is no longer a royal safety net to soften the blow, no inherited financial buffer to fall back on, and no expectation that previous privileges will shield him from the consequences of his choices. The decision marks a pivotal turning point in the relationship between father and son, a decisive, public, and principled boundary that signals the crown's unyielding position. In essence, King Charles's refusal is both a personal and institutional act. It protects the monarchy from unsustainable financial exposure while sending an unmistakable message to Prince Harry that personal battles must be fought with personal resources. The royal safety net, long assumed to be a backstop for those born into privilege, has been withdrawn, leaving the Duke of Sussex to navigate the high-stakes world of litigation alone, fully accountable for the consequences of his actions. By refusing Harry a bailout, the king has made it clear that the royal institution will not handle matters concerning Harry with emotion, but with a decisive approach. So, what fate now awaits Harry after this refusal? Now let's delve into the financial gamble that changed everything. Harry faces the full consequences. What started as a bold and determined campaign by Prince Harry to confront the British tabloids has now spiraled into a full-blown financial crisis, one that threatens to engulf the Duke of Sussex. Initially framed as a personal quest for justice and the defense of privacy, the legal battles were meant to hold the press accountable for alleged invasions and misreporting. At the outset, there was confidence and a sense of purpose. Harry, armed with legal teams, investigative evidence, and the backing of his own resolve, believed he could set the record straight and reclaim his reputation. What he did not anticipate, however, was just how swiftly the tides could turn. The stakes escalated when the palace made its position crystal clear. The monarchy would not provide financial litigation support that falls outside the scope of official royal duties. King Charles's decisive refusal to cover the multi-million-dollar legal demand effectively removed the safety net that many assumed Harry still enjoyed. Without royal backing, every court fee, every settlement, and every unexpected expense is now the sole responsibility of the Duke himself. The decision sent shockwaves not only through the corridors of Buckingham Palace, but also across the global media, creating a dramatic public tableau of accountability and consequence. Adding another layer of complexity to the situation is Meghan Markle's strategic financial distancing. Advisors reportedly guided her to separate or restructure certain holdings within their California ventures, insulating her wealth from Harry's mounting legal pressures. This move, while pragmatic, has intensified the sense of isolation surrounding Harry. What was once a united front, an image of a couple taking on the world together, has now subtly shifted into a narrative of separation. With Meghan's assets protected and her brand safeguarded, Harry is left to navigate the financial storm alone, facing liabilities that few could easily absorb. For observers, the unfolding crisis serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of high-profile legal battles. The allure of challenging powerful institutions or media outlets can be intoxicating. But the reality is that prolonged litigation is unpredictable, expensive, and emotionally draining. Every court appearance, every piece of contested evidence, and every procedural delay compounds the financial and personal stakes. What began as a fight for justice has evolved into a high-risk gamble with the potential for catastrophic consequences. Now, with the palace refusing intervention and Meghan's proactive asset protection, the reality is stark. The bill has been returned, and Harry is confronted with the full weight of his choices. The responsibility for both the financial and reputational fallout rests entirely with him. There are no shortcuts, no bailouts, and no external safety nets to soften the blow. In this unfolding chapter, the Duke of Sussex is learning firsthand that ambition, when combined with legal overreach and misjudged alliances, can transform even the noblest intentions into a personal and financial quagmire. This moment is more than a monetary reckoning. It is a turning point that underscores the consequences of miscalculating both the law and family dynamics. The fight against the press, once painted as a righteous crusade, has become an expensive, solitary battle, one that Harry must face alone, fully accountable, fully exposed, and fully responsible for the consequences of his actions. So, what do you make of King Charles's refusal to bail out Harry from his financial burden? How could Harry escape this mess? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.